What up, everybody? Welcome to Miles of Horror. If you are new here, welcome for the first time. If you are a local around these parts, what up? What up? Thank you guys for hanging out. And before I do anything, if you guys could hit that like button, I would appreciate it. We're almost at 700 subscribers. I'm gonna do a giveaway once I hit 700. As of this video, I think I'm at like 692. So I've got some fun stuff planned for 700. I can't thank you guys enough for getting me there. So let's keep this train rolling. I got a fun video for you guys today. I'm taking you guys back to the neon lights, the popcorn scent, those beautiful VHS tape store shelves. That again just hit you with all that nostalgia, that beautiful, beautiful cover art. I thought this would be fun to do because I have such a big VHS collection and just kind of showcase some of the cover art from over the years that have really kind of shaped a lot of like not just nostalgia, but a lot of people's opinions on movies. I got to be honest with you because let's face it, back in the tape store era in the late 80s and 90s, cover art meant everything, right? And a lot of movies were direct to video. And a lot of studios, this was their way of advertising, right? Other than trailers, that was only available through other VHS tapes. The only real way to advertise your movie was with cover art. So you had a lot of cover art that was gorgeous. That was a big selling point. So they really, took the time to make sure that the cover art pop, that is exactly it was sellable, right? That we will things that would pop on the shelf. So that whole era of physical media was kind of like a golden age in so many ways because you were getting definitive art on these things. Now again, no, they're not as loaded with extras and things like that as they are today, but they are kind of like gorgeous centerpieces for your collections because that's exactly what they were intended to be back in the day. So I wanted to kind of take you guys through some of the cover art from my collection that I think just goes hard, or maybe that it really just takes me back to the tape store, things that I vividly remember seeing on the shelves growing up that I have in my collection that I think would be really cool to kind of showcase. And I'm going to do this in a few different parts. I have 6 for you today. And these are the theme of today's kind of showcase is the ones that I really remember seeing at the tape store, right? That I really remember kind of jumping off the shelves because they kind of stick with you. And I know there's probably a ton more on my shelves, but these are the ones that really stood out to me. So let's get into it. So the first VHS tape that I have with the cover art that just is ingrained in my brain, and with the passing of Mark Jones, I believe it was yesterday, I can't not shout out Rumpelstiltskin. That's my first one. Now, this thing is a 90s kind of slashery type vibe about the iconic character named Rumpelstiltskin, the same director that did Leprechaun. And this thing is it's a super fun movie. And this cover art with him kind of like, ripping through the door when the fairy tale ends, the nightmare begins, is so iconic for a few reasons, right? In my opinion, it's so iconic because this is a children's fairy tale. So for all the kids like me that I was born in 86 that grew up in tape stores, you would go and you'd see this thing and you'd see Rumpelstiltskin and you would think to yourself, that's not a horror movie. And yet you see this iconic image of this crazy, version of Rumpelstiltskin with the sharp teeth and the yellow eyes ripping through the door, and it just stuck with you. This is just one of those things that like it because it was a children's story, but it's a horror movie. It just was the perfect blend and mix of elements to stick with all the kids that grew up in the tape store. So yeah, you have Rumpelstiltskin, man. I love this movie. I have this on several formats. It's a Scream come true. So first up, I got Rumpelstiltskin. All right, next up is another quintessential tape store cover, in my opinion. I think the font really pops. It's kind of block lettering. There's some yellow background here. It's not one of my favorite movies. I really love the first one, but the franchise in and of itself isn't one of my favorites. I do think it's a little overrated overall. Listen, I like the franchise, but it's I think it's overrated as far as the Rushmores are concerned. But this cover art specifically was always so powerful to me. And that is none other than Hellraiser. And I think that's because I think the title of Hellraiser is just a raised eyebrows back in the day, right? And so you see this guy. I mean, to be honest with you, like they include Pinhead right on the cover, and I think Pinhead in and of himself is one of the most iconic looking villains in history. So the fact that they have him right front and center, with the box, you have that kind of block lettering there and on the spine and on the sides. This thing was just always a quintessential tape for me as far as the tape store is concerned. Like I remember seeing this thing, and I remember, me and my buddies going to rent tapes as kids, and like this was such a forbidden thing. Like Hellraiser was such a forbidden tape because this was like, I think, seen as like in our eyes as kids, like the absolute number one most forbidden movie. Like this was the scariest, the Pinhead character, even though we didn't really know what it was, but this was like, no, we can't get Hellraiser like that. That is like beyond the limits of our allowance to do. So this to me was like always the most forbidden tape. And so for that reason, and because Pinhead's look is so iconic, this is the one that always sticks out to me. Amongst so many others, that was probably like one of the most iconic cover arts from the tape store. All right, let's keep on cruising here. The next one was a Halloween time staple. Now, you probably, besides the fact that the cover art is insane, and it probably had all kinds of advertising stuff around it, and promotional stuff like cardboard cutouts, and probably stuff around the snack aisles. This cover art is iconic because he had the orange font, the scratch orange font. You had Pumpkinhead right on the front, and so there it is, right? You got Pumpkinhead. Now, this again, because it was a Halloween movie, right? It's got pumpkin in the title. It's got the orange font. This to me was just another one of those titles that always stuck with me because every Halloween, more so than other times, you'd poke around the horror section and you'd come across Pumpkinhead. And like I said, there was probably most likely some kind of a cardboard cutout because this is a big seller back in the day. Pumpkinhead was a really, really kind of big VHS title around Halloween time. So this cover always really sticks with me. There's also some really creepy stills on the back. For each of man's evils, a special demon exists. I really like Pumpkinhead, but I got to be honest with you guys, I haven't watched it in forever. Probably like 5 or 6 years. I'm due for a rewatch sometime soon, but you got that iconic character right in the front. So number 3 for today is none other than Pumpkinhead. The next one is kind of like a sci-fi-ish horror movie, but it's got that same scratch font, bold lettering. It's got background block, kind of around the font. And it just is so iconic because of the simplicity of it, in my opinion. And that is none other than The Stuff. Okay. A Larry Cohen film. Now, The Stuff is fantastic. I love The Stuff. It's goofy and fun. And it kind of feels like, what year did this come out? I want to say like 1989, 1990, around there. 85, a little earlier than I thought. But this to me had so much of like the early 90s tropes. And again, I know it came out in 85, but it had so much of those early 90s tropes, like your parents not believing in what you say, kids getting into all kinds of trouble, and the parents are eating the stuff, and a lot of isolation from the child standpoint. And so this to me was such a great, kind of early 90s piece. I think it really was ahead of its time in a lot of ways. So I just love this movie. And I think that as a kid, when you're kind of walking the aisles, you see this cover art, are you eating it or is it eating you? I think it just pops. And I think, the whole idea of this movie really comes out with the cover art. So yeah, I adore this cover art. And it's also, typically with the tape store cover art, you had a lot of either vibrant colors or maybe some oranges because of like Halloween time, but you didn't really have these kind of like drab white and blue covers. So it really was kind of a different vibe, a different style, but it really hit for me. I remember this tape very well from back in the day. So number 4 for today is Larry Cohen's The Stuff. All right, I got 2 more here for you today. And probably, as far as strict cover art is concerned, probably some of the most iconic cover art in VHS history. And the first one here is Cheerleader Camp. Now, I've talked about this movie and this specific tape in a number of different videos in the past, but this thing was just, again, as far as strict cover art is concerned, you're a kid walking down the horror section of the tape store, and you see this, it relates to you on so many levels, right? It's about cheerleaders, teens, and it's a slasher, so kids can relate to this kind of a vibe, right? Teens in high school, cheerleaders, yet there's some kind of horror element. So if you were a child of the 90s like I was, this was something that was super relatable. You can understand the cover, whereas a Hellraiser, it was scary, but you didn't really know the movie. This you can relate to on so many levels. It's a cheerleader. She has a skull for a face. But if you look around, there's some other stuff going on too. But it was super relatable. Not only that, but you had the boom of the Fear Street books with also similar style art. So on so many levels, this was just super relatable for children my age that were born in the mid to late 80s. And that were kind of browsing the shelf. So Cheerleader Camp, just iconic. And I also love, again, that the colors on this one just pop really hard. You got the yellow kind of sidling there with that varsity font, and I've spoken about that in another video too. I think they did a bang up job with the little things on this one. Again, with the varsity font, with the cover art and the colors, it really pops. So number 5 for today is Cheerleader Camp. Now I got one more for you today, and it's just a romp of a good time. It is a classic horror movie in every sense of the word. Also goes for big money, but that is none other than Shopping Mall. Now, again, this one is so relatable and so iconic and so memorable because the title Shopping Mall is just, again, something that everyone can relate to. Oh, shopping mall. But instead, it's shopping mall. So there's some kind of horror elements in there. You've got a shopping bag with some kind of like demonic hand holding it. And then you've got like all kinds of body parts in the bag with that eye kind of poking out the head of somebody. This to me is like one of the most iconic covers ever. And they really did a fantastic job selling the movie. Now I understand there are robots in this and killbots, and it's not exactly telling you what the movie is about, but because the cover art is so iconic, it grabbed you in so hard. And again, this movie is just a ton of fun. A bunch of teens get trapped in a mall. They stay over in a mall, and all hell breaks loose, and there's all kinds of deaths and fun stuff. So at Park Plaza Mall, the new security force isn't just tight, it's terrifying. So yeah, the last one I have for today is Shopping Mall. And I want you guys to remember, I really tried to choose movies that you guys would know for this first episode of this, and movies that really just kind of are memorable for me as far as the tape store is concerned. I'm gonna hit some deep cuts in part 2, which I think will be a lot of fun. But yeah, so this is part 1, VHS horror movie cover art that goes hard. Be sure to slam that like button. I'm gonna be doing another probably 2 or 3 of these eventually, so be on the lookout for those. And again, once I get to 700 subs, I'm going to do a fun giveaway. So appreciate y'all hanging out. Let me leave you guys with something fun here. Since we're going back to the tape store, maybe a little preview of my next video. Let's hit you guys with this.
Oh, I'm a happy camper. I love the summer sun. I love the trees and forests. I'm always having fun. Oh, I'm a happy camper. I love the clear blue sky. And with the grace of God, I'll camp until I die.
I love the clear blue skies. So anyway, appreciate y'all hanging out. Catch y'all later. Peace.